Welcome back. So we have the address service available now. We just need to kind of implement it, right? And the first thing we need to do is kind of figure out where do we actually want to get the data from. Now I must admit, even though I told you I didn't own the backend, since I do, I've actually gone to the backend and created an address controller because that wasn't available in my last version up there. So there is actually a new controller. So if you guys can't get to addresses, the post function, that's probably because you didn't have that controller available. But again, I would say that if you have addresses in a REST API, there would also be, everything would be set up from the owner of this setup. And that's why I kind of still live with my idea, my story about I only have access to actually change and work with this create function. I don't have access to manipulate the code behind the scenes. And just to test that this actually works, I just made a simple post request right here, just a small recap, where I actually just send to the addresses. And here I'm sending in a new guy right here, a new street with this information. And now what we are looking for is actually the response, and the response was this, where we get an ID back. And that's what I need. I need the freaking ID so I can actually start, when I create the customer, I want the IDs, not the actual street and number and city, but the IDs. That's what I want to send back to the backend, right? So let's try and actually do this by jumping back to the code. We're going to start out by just getting access to this new controller right here. And we can do that just by, I'm just going to start out by grabbing some information from the customer service. We're going to grab the imports here for the environment. There we go. So that's pretty much just linking for what environment we're on. If you're on localhost, you should do this. If you are on Azure, you should do this, right? And then here we're going to, instead of say we want to go to the customers, then we want to go to the addresses endpoint, right? So now we have the URL ready to point to the addresses endpoint for the service, right? Sweet. Next we need the HTTP client, so I'll do a private HTTP, and then I'll use the HTTP client like we did earlier for the customer setup. There we go. And we're going to use Angular's common HTTP package right here. There we go. So now we just need the create function. Now the create function is going to, we're going to send in an address, and that's going to be of the type address, like this. Rinse and repeat, that's the best, coffee, la la la. And then we're going to do an observable right here, and that observable is going to return an address when we're done with all of this. There we go. And that's still going to be the address model. And then we're just going to end this with a curly bracket start end, and now it's complaining because we're not returning anything yet, so we'll do a return statement. And what do we want to return? Well, I want to return this.http client, right? That's going to be a post request. Let's do it the way we did the other ones. We're going to say the return is going to return an address, like we did in the other one. And what do we want to post? Well, we want to post to the URL that we created up there, right here. That's the URL we want to post to. And what do we want to post? We want to post the address. There we go. So that's all we had to do. Now the create function is actually ready. And again, just to kind of clarify once more that if this is not working for you right now, the truth is that I actually inside my code created an address controller on the back end so that we can actually talk to addresses. So if you haven't done that, you have to go and do it yourself. Let me just show you the code right here. So I've added an address controller right here, and this is the code for the address controller. Very simple. You can just pause the video and take that if you want to for actually making this work. And then I of course deployed it to Azure, and now I have access to only the create function. I didn't make the full CRUD setup for this controller because I don't need it right now. That's it for this lesson. Now we can actually start using a service to post a new address, and we'll get a reply back with the ID for the service. See you in the next lesson where we'll have even more fun.